everybody. This is Noelle from Petitti Garden Centers, and we are going to do a spotlight on Panicle Hydrangea trees. Now, are Panicle Hydrangea trees different from Panicle Hydrangea shrubs? Yes, in form or habit only, okay? If you don't know about Panicle Hydrangeas, they really are one of the easiest hydrangeas to grow. They are also the most sun tolerant of all the hydrangeas. So if you do want to grow a hydrangea, you love the flowers, you want to cut them, dry them, do all those good things, that's great because the Panicle Hydrangeas, shrub form and trees are really the best for sunny conditions out there. So let's start with the care that you need to be successful with these tree hydrangeas. First of all, just keep in mind your sun is actually what they like part shade to full sun conditions, okay? And when we talk about part shade, it's usually 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight. I would like you to place them in the higher sun range in part shade. So if these can get about 6 hours or sun or more, that's going to be perfect for them. And 6 hours is what they need to really bloom well for you. So the higher end of that part shade condition or into your sunnier, brighter conditions, that's always going to be best for them to keep them blooming. The next thing is their soil. Now, Panicle hydrangeas are really not fussy about their soil. They do like well-drained but moist soil. Average soil conditions are fine. Clay soil conditions are fine as well. So they grow very, very well in Northeast Ohio where we do have quite a bit of clay soil. Not a problem. The true issue that you want to avoid is wet feet. And so with clay soil conditions like ours, sometimes they can sit in water for too long, and that is not good. They will not do well in that type of condition. So that's why you need to make sure that it is well-drained soil. So if you have heavy clay soils, you need to add organic matter to help that drainage. Add some Espoma soil perfector is always going to be a great option to add to the soils to, again, increase the drainage. Make sure that you're planting them a little bit higher so that, again, the root system is not sitting in the bottom of a hole with lots of water sitting there. Okay, so do be aware of that. Now, it sounds a little bit strange when we talk about soil conditions and then we move to watering. And I'm going to tell you what you want to do is you want to water like all of our other plant materials. Well, when you're first establishing them, they want 1 inch of water 1 time per week, a slow, deep, thorough watering. Okay, so you plant them, you go ahead and water thoroughly after you're done planting, and then 1 time per week, 1 inch of water. That is if there's no rainfall, okay? If there's a 1/2 inch of rainfall, you supply the other 1/2 inch of irrigation, okay? So that will work out really nicely for you. Fertilizer, they really don't need a ton of plant food, okay? A ton of nutrients. They do very, very well. They produce those buds very, very nicely for us. But we talk about feeding them twice a year. Once in the spring, okay, and once midsummer, and we want you to use plant tone and iron tone both times, okay? It is an organic, slow-release fertilizer. It is just enough for what these plants need to bloom and stay healthy for you through the growing season, and that's it. So they really don't require that. And we will tell you, if you feed them, overfeed them, or over-fertilize them, what happens is that growth will push out and it will be very weak. It will be floppy. It will not look great on these types of trees. So just be aware of that. So really 2 fertilizations is all you need spring and midsummer. Next thing, as far as maintenance is concerned. Now, these hydrangea, the reason they're so easy maintenance is because, again, they don't require a lot from us. Soil conditions, fertilizer, okay, some water. But they also produce their buds and flowers on new wood. So if you were to prune them at a wrong time, or you think you did something wrong, or you prune the stems too deep into the plant, it's really no problem, okay? So I'm going to tell you, with these plants, all hydrangeas make great cut and dried flowers. So you can do the same thing with the hydrangea trees. You can cut and dry these flowers. You can use them in a vase. You can let them dry in the vase and they will stay just wonderful for you. Very, very nice. But with panicle hydrangeas, you can cut that flower and go down as far as you want to on the stem, as long as you're cutting to a green leaf node, okay? So this stem could be a very long cut stem if you want to, or a short flower stem, that's fine too, because these plants will continue to produce new growth where you cut that branch, okay? Now, what we normally talk about pruning them is in late winter, early spring, just when you see that new foliage push out, you can go ahead and you can cut these trees back to a large basketball size. So I always tell everybody to just picture a large round ball on top of the tree, and that's where you're cutting. You're typically removing, with these young trees, you're typically removing about the top 2/3 of the canopy off, and you're just leaving the lower third of the canopy on in a nice rounded shape, okay? I have a video on this, folks, so you can see how to prune your panicle hydrangea tree, but basically it works the same with the tree form and also the shrub form. Just picture a nice rounded large basketball or maybe beach ball size, and then go ahead and just shape your canopy like that, okay? You again would do that during dormancy, and typically we like to do it late winter, early spring, just when you see some new green growth pushing out. You know that plant is going to start actively growing. You go ahead and you cut it down to that round ball shape. Okay. Deadheading. You can leave the flowers on the tree. They will dry. If you like that look, that's fine. I'm going to tell you, you can deadhead them again at any length stem you want to. If you want to go down just a couple of leaf nodes and make a cutting, that's fine. So I'm going to show you that. It's very easy to do. I have my pruners right here. Just make sure you have sharp, clean pruners. I'm going to take this flower off, and I feel kind of bad because it's just starting to fill out, but that's okay. And I'm just going to go down. And again, with panicle hydrangeas, you can make the flower stem any length that you want to. So I'm just going to go down below the flower, and I'm going to cut, you don't even need to count actually the leaf nodes, but 1, 2, 3 leaf nodes. And I'm going to go back to where this intersection has a lot of buds on it. And so I'm just going to cut right at the base, make a nice clean cut. And then I have a flower stem that I can use in a vase and arrange and do whatever I want to, okay? So cutting back to where other flower buds are coming out is great. If I wanted to take this whole branch down, I could have taken it down even lower, okay? So it's really not hard to deadhead these flowers, use these flower stems for arranging and drying and so forth. Okay, now, other attributes about this plant, again, because they're so easy, so reliable, they are very, very cold tolerant. So zone 3 cold tolerance. So that's -35 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? So these trees, panicle hydrangea trees, they make great container specimens that can be left in their container over winter in Northeast Ohio, out on the patio. We'd like you to pull them closer to the home, if you will, just to protect them a little bit more, protect the pot that they're in and so forth. We want you to raise the pot up on some bricks just to get them off of that surface so they don't freeze to the surface when we do have snow and ice and all those good things over the winter. But these trees can stay in those containers year round. The only caveat here is that when the hydrangea tree has grown and the root system has filled out the soil in that container, it will be very hard to water. You'll notice as soon as you water, you're trying to moisten the soil in that container and it's running out the bottom pretty quickly. That's a good indication that it's root bound in there. So after maybe 2-3 seasons in that container, it might need to be pulled out in the spring. You've already pruned the canopy to that beach ball or basketball size. And then you go ahead and you pull it out of its container and you actually root prune the base. And I'm going to pull out one of these. They came pretty loose here, but you can see it has a very dense root system and it is wrapped. It is really growing very quickly. This is actually Limelight, and so Limelight is a very good, vigorous grower, and so the root system is very, very dense. So we're going to take about 1 inch or 2 off the base of the root system, remove that, and then you're going to make slits or cuts up the sides of the root system to kind of loosen those roots, okay? And then you'll replant it back into your container with fresh soil or planting mix, and you'll be ready to go. That tree will be ready to fill out again and grow in that container and do very well. Again, you want to do that in late winter, early spring. That's the best time to root prune. That's the best time to prune that canopy as well, okay? So do be aware of that. That cold hardiness is wonderful for us. They make great container garden plants. They do not need to come into the garage for the winter. They can stay outside. They do very, very nicely. It's always nice to put maybe some mulch around the base of the pot. Again, we don't want your pot to freeze. We don't want it to freeze to the surface that it's on. So just be aware of that and keep your drainage holes open, right? Okay, good. Next thing is that they are super drought tolerant once they are established. So again, that first year you have to be very careful about the water. We want to make sure that the root systems are going down into the soil if you're planting in the ground. Make sure you're watering thoroughly with them. But after that, they really tolerate the heat, humidity, and somewhat drought tolerant through the growing season. So you'll find that panicle hydrangeas and panicle hydrangea trees don't wilt as much as maybe your macrophylla hydrangeas or other hydrangea species, okay? So keep that in mind. With some of the panicle hydrangeas, they can be better pollinator attractants. And so what you're looking for is the panicle hydrangeas that have more of a lacy type flower. So we call that lace cap when we're talking about macrophylla. These are kind of lacy or lace cap type as well. And so some varieties produce a panicle and the larger sterile flowers are on the outside and the true flowers are tiny and on the inside. And these are just budded. Some of them are just starting to open, okay? So you see those much smaller flowers on the inside. When you see these true flowers, these small flowers on the inside, those are going to be the ones that can supply pollen and nectar for your pollinators. So you will see bees and butterflies around your panicle hydrangea trees, especially those lacy varieties. So that's something to look out for as well. Great attribute on especially the lace type panicles. I already mentioned cut and dried flower. They're an excellent plant for that. Always cut your flowers. If you're going to cut your flowers, cut them early in the day when they're just starting to open and starting to flesh out really nicely. They can last in vases for a good week to 2 weeks typically. And like I said, if you let the water run out or evaporate out of that vase, they will just stand up and dry the way that they are. So that's a really cool benefit for your panicle hydrangeas too. Most of these hydrangea trees, I should mention, some hydrangea trees are trained, meaning that they are grown and limbed up from the base and then have the actual tree canopy on top into a standard or single trunk. Some of them are grafted, so it just kind of depends on what variety. I'm going to tell you Limelight is right here. And Limelight, this tree is a very fast, vigorous grower. As I mentioned before, it is just limbed up from the bottom, and then it has a lovely canopy on the top, okay? So Limelight's very, very vigorous. But that's how they are produced. Some of them are grafted. Some of them are limbed up. Usually the smaller varieties or more compact varieties would be like a grafted type tree. Some of the larger growing varieties of Panicle Hydrangea are going to be that trained type tree where they're limbed up and growing at the top. Okay, let's talk about varieties. And I think it's always good to know with panicles, you get such great like midsummer color out of them. And it's when other plant materials are no longer blooming. So yes, we have roses blooming at this time. And I'm going to tell you, Panicle Hydrangea trees look great with roses planted at the base. Absolutely wonderful. So there are other plant materials. Spirea look really nice at the base as well. But these guys are in full bloom right when you need more color during the season. And they will continue through into late summer and early fall. And some will provide very nice fall and winter interest as those flowers just dry on the plants, turn colors, and then continue on. Okay. Let's start with the earliest bloomer that I have here. So I have two early bloomers. One is more of a compact variety. This one's called Fire and Ice. It is about a 3 to 5 foot tall and about 3 to 4 foot wide variety. This one, you can tell beautiful red stems on that variety. And you can see as it starts to bloom at this time of year, it will start a pristine white. It will move into a pink fairly rapidly within a few weeks. And then as it dries, it gets a much darker red color to it. So that's Fire and Ice. Nice compact habit, like I said. So on top of this tree, you might see total height on this might be like 6 to 8 foot. It won't be a huge tree in the landscape. It's going to be a smaller tree, really nice as a specimen or maybe a smaller focal point in a garden border or near a patio. Just really, really great interest in that respect. And all of them can provide that specimen, that focal point out there in the garden. This next one behind me is actually Quickfire. Quickfire is very famous. It is a proven winter variety. Quickfire is going to be one of the earlier, again, flowering Panicle Hydrangeas. It is also one of the earliest to color up. So you're going to start getting those rosy pink tones and then deeper pink shades as we go into the season, further into the season. Just be aware if your hydrangeas don't produce the colors that you were thinking, gosh, I thought the color was going to get a little bit darker or richer. Just be aware that they might be in too shady of a condition, or they might have a little bit of drought stress. So when these plants get really hot, especially when the evening temperatures stay hot, sometimes that color won't develop. So just keep that in mind too. But Quickfire is absolutely gorgeous. Again, has that lacy flower for the pollinators. Quickfire also has kind of reddish brown stems on it too. And Quickfire also has really nice fall foliage, golden to purple foliage. So this has got a very good fall interest to it as well. So we love those. So those are both early. Mid-season is going to be more like Pinky Winky. So Pinky Winky is kind of early to mid, or I should say an earlier mid-season bloomer with this. Pinky Winky on this plant is just starting up. Pinky Winkies, as a shrub, it gets 6 to 8 foot tall. So you have to consider your height of your stem. Stem is probably about 3 feet here, and then add that 6 to 8 foot on top of it. So we're probably looking at 9, maybe 9 to 12 feet altogether when it does grow up. So this one's going to be a little bit taller as far as the canopy and the habit is concerned. Pinky Winky, what's cool about Pinky Winky is it is called a two-toned panicle flower. The flowers are very large. They can get up to about 15 inches long on Pinky Winky. And the base of the flower blooms first. So this one, the base will turn that pinky color, dusty rose color, and the top of the panicle will continue to bloom. And so you have that two-tone where it starts to turn pink and then the top will stay white. So that's really quite interesting with this plant. Very, very nice as far as Panicle Hydrangea and the two-tone panicles and very large panicles, okay? Another mid-season one is going to be Sweet Summer here. And we love Sweet Summer for a hydrangea tree because, again, Sweet Summer is more compact. You're looking at about 4 to 5 foot growth as far as height and width as well. Beautiful, creamy panicles. They're on the smaller side, but they're very profuse throughout the tree here. Really, really nice. And again, just that touch of sort of pastel green at the beginning. And as they open, you get that beautiful white. And then they will blush as well. So they give a little bit of blush color as we move into late summer and fall. Again, compact tree, maybe about a 3.5, 4 foot tall trunk. So again, add your 3 to 5 foot on there. So maybe 8 to 10 foot with the Sweet Summer as well, mid-season, okay? Late season varieties, later, Limelight for sure. And you can tell Limelight is getting all budded up. Limelight is one of those varieties that Angela Petitti talks about where you do the late winter, early spring cutback to that ball shape on the canopy. And then what you do is, if you've ever grown Limelight before, these flowers can get really big and bulky. Sometimes they talk about they're the size of a football when they really fill out. So they can get quite heavy. And that will pull the stems of the tree down sometimes. So with Limelight, what you can do is at the end of May, beginning of June, you can take the new growth and cut it back halfway. And I can see that happened on this plant because this is very woody stems right here and there's a lot of green growth. And so this Limelight tree was cut back halfway. The new growth was cut back halfway at the end of May, beginning of June. And what happens is it makes the plant branch out even more and produces way more flowers, but the flowers are going to be slightly smaller. But in that case, you have a lot more flowering. It's a lot more manageable. It's really, really showy. And you still get that beautiful kind of pastel lime color throughout the plant. So this Limelight definitely has had that second cut back at the end of May, and it's really producing very nicely now. Another later season variety is called Phantom, and Phantom's standing in the back because it is just starting to bud up. What we love about Phantom, again, is it's got that pure white flower and it's big. The flowers are usually about 15 inches long, the panicle flowers, okay? So it is big and showy and beautiful. But the same thing with Phantom. If those panicle flowers are starting to pull stems down, you can cut that new growth halfway and it will fill out for you. But here's the bonus with Phantom. Phantom's got really strong stems. So the first hydrangea tree was called a PG hydrangea, okay? And the PG types, they would bloom beautifully, but again, the flowers would just really make them flop because they were way too heavy. So Phantom is kind of like the improved PG hydrangea tree where its flowers are huge, its stems are really strong. It's a little bit later season bloomer, but it is really gorgeous, okay? So look for all these different varieties. I'm going to tell you, folks, there are going to be more coming down the pipe here where you're going to see very compact varieties like Bobo grafted on top of your standard tree trunks as well. So more tree hydrangeas are to come. And if you're looking again for something that's super cold hardy, that can grow in the ground or in a container. A hydrangea that can grow in the sun is always fantastic. Beautiful flowers for cut or dried purposes. Really is not picky about soil. Just don't let it get overly wet, okay? They do not like wet feet. They don't take a ton of fertilizer, just average fertilizer maintenance. And they really do a nice job out there of being a focal point in the garden border. They can be underplanted with so many beautiful different types of perennials or roses or spirea or whatever you like underneath. And they just do a beautiful job for us. One thing I did forget, are they deer resistant? Unfortunately, no, folks. No hydrangeas are very good as far as deer resistance is concerned. We do get some, definitely some damage on some of the hydrangea. With Panicle Hydrangea, if they start to eat the buds and the flowers and the leaves, it's okay because they're going to come back. They're going to produce more growth for you fairly readily, fairly quickly. But unfortunately, you do need to protect them if you don't want that to happen. So get your deer repellents out or your barriers, fencing, netting. Those are all work very well for us. And whatever deer repellent works best for you, from Plant Skid to Bob X to I Must Garden, they all work well. It just depends what you like to use and what works best for you. Okay. Panicle hydrangea trees. Enjoy.